At the moment, if I scrub my mouse across the page, this currently has step by step. It's a very linear progression. So again, if I move my mouse by a certain amount of pixels, then this animation will also move by a certain amount of pixels too. Now, if I look at my final one, you'll see that there is this kind of like more natural movement going on in here. So you can see here that it's not always the same progression each time. Now, unfortunately, as part of P5, there isn't anything in here to do with easings or transitions. So we actually have to use something else. Now, I can actually go to places like easings.net and kind of pick and choose which ones I want. Maybe I want something quite aggressive that looks like this one. So if I click positions here, you'll see this one ping really quickly and this one be linear. Ours currently is like this one, and we want something a bit more like that. So how do I do this and add it to my project? Well, we've given you some kind of JavaScript library to make it a little bit easier. It's kind of based on this information here. We've actually simplified it a little bit more to make it easier to read. And you can see this information. If we go back to our code, we added this thing called easing.js. So in here, what we can do is use a number that passes in between 0 and 1. And this returns a position based on this. So for instance, rather than it be a linear progression, we can make it any of these things to try out how this stuff works. So we're going to use this in our project. Now at the moment we're not using easing.js in our project because if we go back to index.html, we've got two files. We've got p5.min.js and then our own script. So we want to use some easing within our code. So we need to load easing.js. Now do we add it before p5 or after p5? We do need to add it before script. Doesn't really matter. We need to load it in any order to use them both in our script. I like to do this p5, then easing, then script. So I'm going to add one between a new script with the source of easing.js. So basically what I want is when I scrub the page, it to feel a little bit more natural. So within my easing.js, I've got lots of things that I can actually use. There isn't a reference guide like there is with p5. I can just literally look at this fairly short amount of code and kind of pick and choose what I want to pick. So for us, we could pick something like ease in out quint, and I'm going to look through my file and see if it's in here. Ease in out quint. How do we actually use this? So I'm going to go back to my script.js, and the thing that I want to do is I want to keep this position, but I want to take this linear thing if I kind of increase my mouse across the page and actually overwrite this position with this kind of tweened or this eased position instead. So what I'm going to do is actually change this constant for a let, because I want to update this linear currently scrub across the page with an easing version. So underneath it, I'm going to take this linear version, which is this, and update position and make this equal to, well, if I just make this position equal to position, this is currently just a linear position. So we take the previous one and it's the current one. So the current one is now the new one. It's the same as what we had. We want to pass this position, which is currently linear, into one of these easings. To do that, I'm going to pick one of these, maybe ease in out quint, quite an aggressive one, just so we can see what it looks like for now. I'm going to copy this name and I'm going to put it in my script here and put some brackets around position. So I'm taking a linear one and making it an ease in out quint instead. So now what we should see on the page, if we scrub across, is more a pretty aggressive one that we have here. So notice there's not much difference if I go over here, and then there's an aggressive movement in the middle, and then not much at the end. So maybe it's a little bit too much. Maybe I go back to my easings and see which one may feel a bit more natural. Maybe something not quint, but maybe cubic might feel a bit more natural. So let's see this one. So size is changing. There we go. That maybe feel maybe a little bit more natural. So what I'm going to do is again look through my easings.js just to see if I have this ease in out cubic. Here it is. I'm going to take that and copy and paste it instead of quint. So now what I have is not quite as aggressive. We'll have this kind of movement feeling like it's across the entire page. So previously, if you want to kind of see the difference between the two, I can just comment out this line by doing 2 slashes at the start. Now this is every single step. If I go across the page like that, if I uncomment this by just removing those 2 forward slashes, we'll see this feeling a little bit more natural across the page.